foods should you be eating as a high performing person or entrepreneur? If we haven't met yet, hi, my name is Dr. Celia Corbo. I'm a functional health practitioner, licensed chiropractor, and entrepreneur, and I'm here to help guide you in living your best quality of life. Now, today's episode is all about eating healthy for my high performing humans, my high performing entrepreneurs, because what you eat is definitely going to affect the way that your body functions. We're going to talk all about diets. We're going to talk about having a healthy relationship with food, as well as some strategies to help build some healthy habits around the table. First of all, the foods that we consume now, these days, they are not very rich in nutrients and minerals because the soil that they are grown in or on is not rich in nutrients and minerals. So we naturally are eating food that is very depleted of what we should be getting naturally. And that's just because of mass produced farming. So that's why it is really important to supplement and to consume your minerals and your vitamins through an external source and not just rely on food. But that's not for this video. We'll get to that in another video. But regardless, your food is not as rich as it used to be. But needless to say, we still need to eat. So just because it's not rich doesn't mean we don't eat. And there's so many different diets out there with so many different opinions. I can honestly tell you that I've been on almost every single diet. My first diet was gluten-free, and then I went dairy-free, and then I went sugar-free. So then I decided to go on the paleo diet. And then when I was on the paleo diet, I steered into ketosis diet. And then that didn't work out very well. So then I went into the volumetrics diet. And then I didn't love that so much because I was hungry off of eating just a lot of veggies. Then I'm like, let me try plant-based. And then plant-based was pretty much the nail in the coffin. And I'll tell you why in just a second. And I just said, screw it. I'm going to eat everything that I want. So I did a binging diet. And now I eat everything in moderation. And I'm going to tell you how we can get there as well. But let me first shed some light on a diet that really destroyed me. And that was the plant-based diet. This is not the diet that I recommend if you want to be a high-performing entrepreneur or a high-performing human, because plants, just like animals, they don't want to be eaten. Unfortunately, they can't run away and attack you, but they produce a chemical within them, some more than others, called oxalates. And when you consume a plant that is high in oxalates, like spinach or almonds or beets or sesame seeds or peanuts or dark chocolate, what ends up happening is these oxalates get absorbed into our body and they find calcium, which we have a lot of, and they bind to calcium. So now you have oxalate and calcium bound together, and they form this razor sharp crystal that then deposits itself within the body. So one of the areas that it loves to deposit itself is in the joints. So that's why when you eat a lot of dark chocolate, let's say, and you already have arthritis and you have a flare up, it's because you are consuming a lot of oxalates and you're causing more oxalate load, and that's causing that irritation or that inflammation. But not only the joints, it can affect your digestive system, it can affect your kidneys, and you can develop kidney stones. It can even affect your brain signaling because it can affect the way the neurotransmitters, which are the chemicals of the brain, interact and are formed and message within the body. So I am totally against eating plant-based only. Again, there are certain foods that are higher in oxalates than others. However, it still needs to be taken with caution because it's not like you eat one leaf of spinach and you have this flare up. It's usually years of accumulation of these oxalates that then eventually can lead to flares, and it can lead to unknown triggering of symptoms that lead the body into a state of dis-ease. And then guess what? If you are arthritic and you go to a rheumatologist, they're probably going to put you on a medication when all you need to do is just watch your diet. Well, this is also very case dependent, but for the most part, if we are watching what we're eating, we can cause a lot of reversal to a lot of ailments in our body. And oxalates is one of those things. So for me, when I was plant-based, I actually had to go on Accutane because my whole life I had very clear skin. I never really had any blemishes apart from when I was on my menstrual cycle and it was hormonal. However, when I went to being plant-based, I was breaking out like mad. And I didn't know why. I thought, okay, I'm plant-based, I'm eating healthy, I'm not eating any meats, I'm consuming very healthy foods. What's going on? And I tried everything that I could from a plant-based perspective because I was very against eating proteins and modifying my diet, and nothing was working. So I finally went to the dermatologist and I said, I need something. This is ridiculous. I have my oil glands are becoming three-dimensional. I can feel them. I have all this cystic acne underneath my skin where it hurts. I'm red, I'm inflamed, I'm puffy. I don't know what to do. And lo and behold, I went on Accutane. And I was on Accutane for a few months, I would say from November until May of 2019 to 2020. And it was awful. And I never would recommend you do. But needless to say, I did it because I couldn't find a solution. And one day I finally said, you know what? I can't eat plant-based anymore. I'm craving protein. I need to eat meat. And I just went on a bender. I just ate all the meat that I could find. I was starving. My body was just dying for protein. It was just like wanting protein so badly. And I finally gave in and I called it quits on the plant-based diet. Now, because the Accutane was in my body, my skin did clear up, but I also had to go through a lot of healing with food. And a lot of reconditioning with my mental state towards food. But I'll get to that in just a second. So, going back to oxalates and plant based diet, like I mentioned, not all foods are super high in oxalates. I'm actually going to link my oxalate workbook below so you can click it and read it and find out which foods are high in it. But I wouldn't recommend a plant-based diet unless you know exactly what you're doing, because the protein in plants is also not as bioavailable to us as humans as it is for a herbivore like a horse or a cow. We need to have some kind of bioavailability with protein in order for us to absorb it and use protein to help with healing and rebuilding the body. So that's why animal meats are amazing, because they are already bioavailable for us. When we eat them, we absorb them, we consume them, and it gets used really readily and very available, like it's very highly available for us to then use it for healing and repairing. So if you are going to be plant-based, then what I do recommend you do is I do recommend that you supplement. And I do recommend that you go see a certified, proper functional health practitioner that will guide you through what kinds of combinations you need to do and what you need to do in order to make sure that your body is functioning optimally as you are on this certain diet protocol, you can say. Because also with oxalates, it can be genetic. So I know that my body, based off of my genetic profile, does produce more oxalates than, let's say, my husband. But needless to say, oxalates are still a bad thing because they do wreak so much havoc. And just because I produce more and he produces less, I still wouldn't encourage you to consume more because your body naturally does produce less. So just keep in mind that oxalates are not something that we want. It could potentially be something that is wreaking havoc in your body. And I would highly, highly recommend that you stop consuming oxalate rich foods so you can get your brain to perform and your body to perform for you at a moment's notice. So this brings me to my next topic, and this is the mindset towards food. And the reason why I did so many fad diets in my day was because my digestive system was always out of whack. I always felt like I couldn't figure out my digestive system. Everything that I ate would always trigger some kind of flare up. I would have really bad gas, really bad constipation or diarrhea. Like I was really sensitive. And it was very frustrating because one day I would eat something and it would be fine. And the next day I would eat the exact same thing and it wouldn't be fine. And when we're dealing with a lot of stress in our life, this can cause a huge shift in the way that our body digests food. So part of being on a diet is not just the food itself, it's also the emotional and the physical realms of that diet. So are you just eating clean or are you moving your body? Are you trying to free your body of stressors? Are you trying to get your body and your brain to work for you in a nice, peaceful state? Or are you always going to be stressed out and going crazy and freaking out over everything? Because if you are, that will affect the way your body functions. And when we are in a constant state of stress, even towards food, so if we think, ooh, I shouldn't have this cookie because it's going to cause so much flare up, but what the heck, I'm going to eat it anyways. Well, you've already in your brain put this low frequency association to that cookie. And so your digestive system is not going to be able to handle it because you're stressed out eating this cookie. And this actually relates to the brain and the nervous system. Your digestive system has its own system called the enteric nervous system, and it responds the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. So the sympathetic nervous system is fight or flight. So the most common example is you see a bear or a tiger or a very scary animal, and immediately you either freeze and ready to fight the bear or the tiger, or you flee and you flight. So you run away. And you either fight it or you run away. And parasympathetic is another system where we associate it with rest and digest. So this is when you're chill, everything is just going and flowing, and that's beautiful. Now, there could be detriments to both parasympathetic and sympathetic, but in this case, when we are in a sympathetic state because we're stressed out from work, our kids are stressing us out, we have so many tasks that we haven't done yet in our day, our body unknowingly will be in a state of sympathetic. And then when you go eat your food and you eat this cookie, for this particular example, that you put a negative association with, it will then not digest properly because A, you're stressed out, and B, you have this negative association towards the cookie. And this is the mindset that I had for about 13 years. And it was killing me. It was actually killing me. My stomach was in perpetual shambles. My mindset was always blocked. I never had a good association with food. And that's where I want to help you. Whenever I work with any of my clients, we always work on mindset. We always work on clearing these emotional blocks and these emotional struggles that we have around food or in life, because again, that can put our body into this state of sympathetic or parasympathetic unknowingly and affect our digestive system. But it is so important that we clear this relationship with food, because if we have negative associations to it, then anything that we eat is going to be a problem, and it is going to be, a block for us. We are not going to break it down. We are not going to absorb the. So when it comes to mindset, that's also a part of the diet. You have to eat foods and you have to have this positivity towards it. You have to see this food as nourishing. You have to see this food as, I'm going to eat it and it is going to nourish my body. So when it comes to that mindset, it's really important that you have that nourishing mindset and not that restrictive mindset. Because a lot of the time in society, it's like, okay, I'm going on this diet right now and I'm going to eat all of these foods and I'm going to take out all of those. If you really, really love Chick-fil-A and Popeyes, then maybe once every other week or once a week, or whenever you get to that point where you can stop eating it, you have it only as a treat or only sparingly, because you don't want to be so restrictive. When we restrict all the time, we don't necessarily add something in to fill that void. So you've taken out Popeyes and you've taken out Chick-fil-A, but what have you done to replace it? Have you added in your own chicken sandwich that's made at home and it's made in a healthy way? Have you added in meditation to feed your soul and enlighten your spirit? Have you added in a walk to help with re-energizing your body? Probably not. We are so accustomed to taking things out, but not adding things in. And that, again, is another reason why people fail when they're trying to change their patterns and their eating habits, because they're just taking things out. You can't just stop. You have to add in, and you have to be healthy about what you're adding in. And you have to think, How will this positively impact my brain, my mind, my performance, my mood, my relationships, right? Because if you're going to keep doing the same thing all the time, but you're going to take out foods, you're going to just deplete yourself so much that you're going to have no energy to do anything. And we don't want that, because to be a high performing human or a high performing entrepreneur, you need energy. You need your brain. You need your body to be ready for you whenever you need it at a moment's notice. So that's why having this restrictive mindset is not something that I recommend. So let's talk about strategies. So, one thing that I always recommend with my clients when we're working on changing the diet, because for some people it needs to be cleaned up like ASAP, but it's really difficult because these are habits that have been lifelong ingrained, and they won't just go away in a day or two, right? They need practice, they need consistency, and you need to have what we call this neuroplastic change in your brain so we can start forming new neural connections in understanding how to eat better and how to fuel your body better. So with all of my clients, what we do is we start small. I always recommend, don't go on this huge diet and change every single day, every single meal. Don't do that. What you're going to want to do instead is just change breakfast. So just start with breakfast. Once you realize cereal milk is not a very good breakfast, I want you to replace it with whole foods. I want you to replace it with protein-rich foods, carbohydrates, beautiful healthy fats like avocado, olive oil, or grass-fed butter, or purified ghee. So I want you to start just with that one meal. Just start there. And then for about 2 weeks, once you've realized what you really like to have for breakfast and you have a few go-to meals, and that's your go-to, and you don't have to think about that gross bowl of cereal filled with sugar and high fructose corn syrup and all these gross ingredients anymore, because you're enjoying these whole food, nutrient rich meals for breakfast. We focus on either lunch or we focus either on dinner, whichever one you want to pick first. And then we work on fixing those meals, and we focus on getting those to be more whole food, those to be more nutrient rich, and you slowly make those changes. And it might not be every day that you're having those changes made. It could be even just 1 to 2 times a week. But what I encourage is that you do commit to that 1 to 2 times a week of making sure that that meal is being changed. Because if you're going to say yes and then not do it, first of all, you're not creating any neuroplastic changes in your brain. And second of all, you're killing your self-confidence because you told yourself that you were going to do something and then you're not doing it. And if you can't even trust yourself to follow through with something, how can you trust anyone else around you? So you need to build a healthy relationship with yourself where you can say you're going to do something and you commit to doing something. And we start to see these healthy changes taking place both internally and on the table. So that is my number one strategy that I go to when I'm working with my clients. It is start small and start with one meal at a time and then slowly build up. Another strategy that I'm going to share with you is with regards to snacking. So when it comes to snacking, everyone has like that drawer in their desk. Luckily, I don't have drawers on my desk. It's literally just a table. But I've heard that people have that drawer in their desk and it's full of candy or it's full of chips or whatever the case may be. And they go to it multiple times a day. So my other strategy is clean out that drawer and replace it with healthy foods instead. So like a bag of carrots or some cherry tomatoes or some fruits like an apple. I mean, you're not going to satisfy the craving in the same way because Swedish berries taste different than an apple. But when you have Swedish berries as the example, after a period of time of eating so healthy, you will really notice how it makes you feel. It does, for me, it's like ripping up my insides. It's the worst feeling in the world. It's awful. And it's not even worth it anymore. Like, I have ingrained so much education into my body on how to eat healthy and how to be intuitive with my body that eating something like that, it just doesn't do it for me anymore. And that's the other strategy that we're trying to implement, where you eat these foods, these poor quality foods, and they just don't do anything for you except make you realize why you stopped eating them in the first place. So I'm not a huge snacker, and I don't encourage snacking because it gets too much load in our digestive system. However, if you are a snack, before we break that habit, let's start changing the foods to be whole food, nutrient dense. If you're starting to realize there's a bit of a pattern here, at the end of the day, it's all about whole foods and nutrient dense foods. That's really the secret. There is no other trick in the playbook. It's just about eating delicious, good quality foods. Now, what I will say is when I do work with my clients, we do genetic testing. And if you're like me and you have certain genetic mutations, there are some whole food, nutrient dense foods that I can't handle. And so eating eggs or asparagus or onions for me is actually going to do more harm than good. I don't want to come on here and start to contradict myself, but what I want to come on here and say is if you are going to go on this journey alone, then making these whole food, nutrient dense foods part of your life is going to be an amazing game changer. But if you're already doing that, like I was doing that for so many years, and you're still not finding the answers that you're looking for, it might be time to dive deeper with a practitioner. And in my program, we look at genetics, we look at blood work, we look at the foundational tests called the organic acid test. It's a nutrition and metabolism test. And we really start with your brain, and we modify the diet based off of what your body needs in order to thrive and stop producing any type of neurotoxins or an abundant amount of deficiencies that could be happening because we're not giving the proper nutrients, supplements, foods to our body. It's going a step deeper into the health journey, but it's definitely something that I would recommend if you were like me and you are already doing whole food, nutritional dense foods, and you're not seeing any results, like I just mentioned. So in my program, we do our foundations where I just mentioned it's the genetics, it's the organic acids test, and it's the blood work, all while working on your nutrition. And then for those that want to go a step further, we look at hormones. We look at the sex hormones like estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and we balance those out, as well as cortisol, which is a huge hormone for stress. And then we also do gut work. We rebalance and we repair the digestive system, and then we go into maintenance care. So there is a beautiful system that I have in place with all of my clients, and it does help a ton with rebalancing the body. It does take time, but I can honestly say myself as a testament and so many others that have been on the program, it is a game changer. It will get your brain and your body to be so much more sharp, so much more available to you, and it really makes you question how you weren't this way for so many years prior. So what I want to leave off with at the end of this video is this. Stop eating oxalates. Stop having plant-based foods that are high in oxalates. And I'm going to attach that PDF, that link in the comments below so you can click it and read all about it. I also want you to treat food with respect and see it as this form of nourishment. Stop restricting your food and stop taking things out and not adding things in that will enhance your quality of life and improve your health. I also want you to take more action in getting yourself to be a better snacker. So if you are a snacker, making sure you're picking whole, nutrient-dense foods that are going to support your journey towards being more healthy, as opposed to foods that are going to hold you back. But again, remember, there's no such thing as failing, right? A failure does not exist. It's only a learning opportunity. And if you have one bad day, it's not the end of the world. The world will not stop spinning. The world will not fall off of its axis. You just got to realize where you made the mistake, look inward, and then fix it. So that way, when it happens again, we're more aware of the pattern and we can fix the problem and find a solution faster before we spiral. And for those of you who are already my wonderful high-performing humans or high-performing entrepreneurs that want to take it that one step deeper in understanding your body through genetic testing, organic acids testing, blood work, GI mapping, hormone testing, all the wonderful things that I do with my clients, you can click the link below to schedule a 20-minute discovery call with me. And I would be more than happy to go over the protocols with you and tell you about how we can work together to get you living your best quality of life. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you at the next episode.